Good morning, friends. My doggies are here with me today. This is Junebug. Hi. She likes to give me kisses. Isn't she sweet? And Barley is my other doggie. He's here too. He might show up in the middle of story time. We'll see. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning, dear friends. So glad to see you. Good morning. Welcome to Storytime in the Woods. I'm Miss Becca, and I'm so glad to be here with you today. It's a beautiful day where I live. We're expecting some rain and some thunderstorms to come later tonight, but right now it's pretty. And you might hear Junebug and Barley, who are out here with me, shaking their collars or even running around and barking at things. They love to be in the woods with me, and I love it when you're here in the woods with me too. This morning I have a silly story to share with you called Little Flea and Little Louse. Now, fleas and lice are not things that any grown-up likes to talk about or have inside their home. They're usually things we try to keep far away from our house. But this story will probably make you laugh. I hope it does. I'm going to call the story fairies and tell you the story of Little Flea and Little Louse. Story fairies, come and bring stories clear and true. Story fairies, come and bring stories to our story ring. Little Flea told Little Louse that he was going to take the corn to the mill to have it turned into flour. And then he said, "Little Louse, whatever you do, don't fall in the soup pot while I'm gone. Be sure and take care of yourself, and I'll be back soon." Well, that made Little Louse laugh. "Of course I won't fall in the soup pot," he said. "Have a nice trip, and I'll see you soon." So Little Flea left and went to the mill. And then Little Louse cleaned the kitchen. He swept the floor, he washed all the dishes, and he dried them, and he put them away. He chopped all of the vegetables for the soup. He put everything in the soup pot and filled it with water. And then he turned the stove on so it could start to heat up. By this point, Little Louse was rather tired, so he thought he would go outside and take a nap. He went out to the rosebush and curled up underneath it, and soon he was fast asleep. Well, it wasn't long until Little Flea came back, and when he got home he was surprised and a little bit worried to find the front door open. "Little Louse," he called. "Little Louse, are you home?" No one answered, and this really worried Little Flea. He looked everywhere for Little Louse. He looked here and there, he looked high and low, but he couldn't find Little Louse. And that's when he found the boiling soup pot. "Oh no," said Little Flea, "Little Louse has fallen into the soup pot and he's all boiled up." And then he started to cry. And he decided that he didn't want to live all by himself and he was going to go. So he started to walk out of the kitchen, and the table said, "Little Flea, why are you crying?" "Why shouldn't I be crying?" said Little Flea, "for Little Louse has fallen in the soup pot, and he's all boiled up. I don't want to live here alone, so I'm leaving." "Well," said the table, "if you're leaving, I'm coming with you." And Table moved all four of his legs and started teetering and tottering behind Little Flea. The two of them made their way across the kitchen, when the bread pan sitting high on the shelf said, "Little Flea, why are you crying?" "Why shouldn't I be crying?" said Little Flea. "Little Louse has fallen in the soup pot and is boiled all up. I don't want to live here alone, so I'm leaving, and Table's coming with me." "Well," said the bread pan, "if you and Table are leaving, I'm coming too." And the bread pan slid down off the shelf and followed behind the table. The three of them walked through the front door, when the front door said, "Little Flea, why are you crying?" "Why shouldn't I be?" said Little Flea, "for Little Louse has fallen in the soup pot and is all boiled up. I don't want to live here alone, So I'm going, and the table and the bread pan are coming with me." "Well then," said the door, "if you and the table and the bread pan are leaving, I'm coming too." And with that, the door picked himself up off of his hinges and started to follow behind the bread pan. They made their way across the front yard when the tree stopped them and said, "Little Flea, why are you crying?" "Why shouldn't I be crying?" said Little Flea, "for Little Louse has fallen into the soup pot and he's all boiled up. I don't want to live here alone anymore, so I'm leaving, and the table and the bread pan and the door are coming with me." "Well," said the tree, "if you all are leaving, then I'm coming too." And with that, the tree pulled his roots up out of the ground and started following along behind the door. As the group of them were making their way across the lawn toward the rosebush, Little Louse woke up from his nap right there under the rosebush. And he woke up, and his eyes got big. He couldn't believe what he saw. There was a sad group coming toward him, being led by Little Flea, who was crying. But you know who was surprised even more? Little Flea and table and bread pan and door and tree. They were all so surprised to see Little Louse there under the rosebush, jumping up and down and saying hello. First, Little Louse started to laugh. Then Little Flea started to laugh. Then table started to laugh, and then bread pan, and then door, and then the tree started to laugh too. Soon they were all laughing. The whole bunch of them turned and went back happily together toward the house. Tree put his roots back in the ground there in the front yard, and then Door popped himself back on his hinges. Bread pan slid up onto the shelf, and the table went to the middle of the room and sat still. Little Flea and Little Louse sat at the table, and they served themselves some soup, and they ate it together. And all was well in the world. Friends, that is the story of Little Flea and Little Louse. I think it's a silly story that I enjoyed listening to and telling, and I hope you enjoyed being here with me and hearing it today. Wonder if you can hear some of the birdies here that are singing. I think spring is coming soon where I live. Friends, I'm so glad you can be here with me for story time in the woods. I love being in the woods, and I love being here with you. I hope you know that you are loved. I'll see you soon.